The best coaches, the NHL coaches and the NBA coaches and World Cup winners across all sports, NCAA champions, they all talk about this. They all talk about winning the relationship game as the most important part of their coaching. The college coaches talk about, like, almost consistently, what's the most important tool you have? They say individual meetings, one-on-one. When I'm coaching youth, that might be hard, right? Like, I don't have as much time as a university coach might, but that's still that minute here, that minute there, saying, hey, I see you. I see you. I know what's going on in your life. I coach a lot of youth, and so, if kids miss practice because they have orchestra or they're in a play or something like that, and I'm constantly like, I'll run into practice, see them beforehand. Hey, how'd the play go? How'd your piano recital go? Right? I see you as a human being. See, we coach a person, not a child. Coach a person, not an adult. And the coaches who get that, and the coaches who are the relentless connectors, they're the ones who have the most success. And they develop their knowledge of the game. But I would doubt that there's someone in this room that if I went up to you and say, quickly, you got 1 minute, draw me up a great practice, you couldn't do that, right? And what's really important to realize as well is that these are skills. And we can't have a fixed mindset to that. We can't think like, oh, it's just not me, I'm a lousy listener. Right? I don't care. I don't have passion. That's not me. No. We want to evolve. We want to grow as coaches, and we want to grow in that area just like we want to grow in this area. It's absolutely critical. Now, one of the tools that we teach a lot, we call it the river, right? We say bathe your kids in the river. So what's the river? When you make your players feel respected, when you make them feel important, when you validate them, when you empower them, when you make them feel relevant, they'll run through a wall for you, right? That's what we want. And if you don't believe that, do the opposite. Disrespect people. Don't give them a voice, right? Don't make them feel valued or important. You'll never get the best out of them. Right? And this isn't just coaching, this is in business, this is in life. Right? So how do you do that? Very simple. One person, one moment, one time. Coaching is so hard because we work with kids, and it's public, and it's emotional, and we keep score. And yet something we say or do can stick with a kid the rest of their life. And we don't get to pick and choose what they remember and what they forget. I remember I learned this when I was coaching at Vermont. One of the first kids I coached called me up, and he was like, he had just finished college and he was applying to med school. And he said, Coach, I just want to say thank you. And I'm like, Pat, why? And he goes, because, every time I want to put my books down, or every time I was in college and I wanted to leave the weight room, I thought of your words. I thought of like, is that the best you got? Can you do one more? And so I just want to say thanks. And I hung up the phone and I told the coach I was working with that. He's like, that's great. I'm like, that's not great. That's the worst thing I ever heard. They remember what we say? Because for every kid like Pat, I was like, other kids like, hey, you should take up kayaking or something. But then if you think about this in your own lives with coaches or teachers, people ask me, they're like, John, how come you've written books? I grew up on Long Island, and I went to a Catholic high school, and when I was a junior in high school, I had a teacher, Brother Jeff Peterson, English teacher. And Brother Jeff Mary's handing back papers, and mine has a big red F on it. And he's like, and I looked at him, and because I was smart, I was just lazy. I was like, Brother Jeff, there's no way I got an F on this paper. I know it's better than these other ones. He goes, John, I didn't give you an F based on what they can write. I gave you an F based on what you can write. And this is crap. And then because it was the 80s, he took my books and he threw them out the third-story window. And he said, get out of my classroom and don't come back because you are a great writer. And I remember that day and I remember that classroom till today. And I dedicated my first book to Brother Jeff, the person who made me believe I could write. And a couple years ago, Brother Jeff reached out to me. Do you think he remembers that moment? No, he threw everyone's books out the window. Right? One person, one comment, one time can change a life.